Before we dive into this incredible story, if you're enjoying these untold Hollywood secrets, please hit that like button and subscribe for more shocking celebrity revelations. Your support means the world to us. Now let's get into this amazing story. It was November 14th, 1991, and the cast and crew of Unforgiven were deep into filming one of the most crucial scenes of the movie when everything suddenly stopped. Clint Eastwood, who was both directing and starring in what would become his masterpiece, called Cut, in the middle of a complex horseback sequence that had taken hours to set up. The entire production crew, over 80 people, looked around in confusion. They were on schedule, the light was perfect, and the scene was going beautifully. But Clint's attention wasn't on the cameras or the horses or the carefully choreographed action. His eyes were fixed on a small figure sitting in a wheelchair at the edge of the set, 6-year-old Tommy Chen, who had been brought to the location by the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Tommy was dying of leukemia, and his final wish was to meet the man who played the toughest cowboy in the movies. What happened next would become one of the most beautiful moments in film history, proving that real toughness isn't about how hard you can fight, it's about how gently you can love. Now, let me back up here and tell you about Tommy Chen, because understanding his story makes what Clint did next even more incredible. Tommy had been battling cancer for 3 years. Since he was just 3 years old, the doctors had tried everything: chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments, but the cancer kept coming back stronger each time. By November 1991, Tommy's parents, David and Susan Chen, had been told that their son had maybe weeks left to live. Tommy was the bravest little boy you could ever imagine. His mother Susan recalled years later. He never complained, never asked why me, he just kept fighting with this incredible spirit. Tommy's obsession with Clint Eastwood had started during one of his long hospital stays when a nurse showed him the good, the bad, and the ugly to help pass the time during chemotherapy. He was mesmerized, remembered his father Dave. He would watch Clint's movies over and over, practicing that squint in the mirror, pretending to be a cowboy. For Tommy, Clint represented everything he wanted to be: strong, fearless, and unbeatable. When the Make-A-Wish Foundation asked Tommy what his final wish would be, he didn't hesitate. "I want to meet Clint Eastwood," he said. "I want to ask him how to be brave like him." The foundation reached out to Clint's production company, explaining Tommy's situation and asking if there was any way Clint could meet with him. The response came back within hours: "Bring Tommy to the set. We'll make sure he has the best day of his life." But when Tommy arrived at the Unforgiven location in Alberta, Canada, Clint realized that a quick meet and greet wasn't going to be enough. Actually, let me tell you about the moment when Clint first saw Tommy, because it changed everything. Tommy had arrived on set in a wheelchair, wearing a cowboy hat that was too big for his head and a dirty, hairy t-shirt that hung loosely on his tiny frame. The chemotherapy had taken his hair, but his eyes, those bright, determined eyes, sparkled with excitement as he looked around at the horses, the cameras, and the authentic Western town that had been built for the film. Clint was in the middle of explaining a shot to his cinematographer when he noticed the commotion at the edge of the set. "Who's the little cowboy?" Clint asked his assistant director. "That's Tommy Chen," came the reply. "Make-A-Wish kid. Terminal cancer. He's your biggest fan." Clint looked over at Tommy, who was straining to get a better view of the action. His face lit up with pure joy despite his obvious illness. Something in Clint's expression changed. The focused director became something else entirely, a man looking at a child who was facing the unthinkable with courage that humbled every adult on the set. "How long do we have with him?" Clint asked. His parents said they could stay for an hour or two. They don't want to interrupt the filming schedule. Clint was quiet for a moment. Then he made a decision that would cost the production thousands of dollars and create memories that would last a lifetime. "Tell everyone to break for lunch," Clint said. "Early lunch, long lunch." "But Clint, we're right in the middle of..." "Early lunch," Clint repeated firmly, "and clear the set. I want it just me and Tommy and his family." Don't forget to comment below and let us know what other heartwarming celebrity stories you'd like to hear about. What happened next left the entire crew amazed. Clint walked over to where Tommy was sitting, knelt down beside his wheelchair and extended his hand. "You must be Tommy," Clint said in that familiar gravelly voice. "I'm Clint. I hear you're a pretty tough cowboy yourself." Tommy's eyes went wide. He was meeting his hero, but he was so overwhelmed he couldn't speak. "That's okay, partner," Clint said gently. "Sometimes the toughest cowboys are the quiet ones." Clint turned to Tommy's parents. "Mr. and Chen, would it be okay if I spent some time with Tommy today? I'd like to show him around, maybe teach him a few things about being a cowboy." David and Susan were crying before they could even answer. For the next 4 hours, Clint Eastwood gave Tommy Chen a private tour of what it meant to be a movie cowboy. He showed Tommy how to draw a gun using a prop, of course, how to sit tall in a saddle, how to squint properly in the sun. He let Tommy direct a scene, holding the little boy on his lap while Tommy called action and cut like a real filmmaker. But most importantly, Clint talked to Tommy like he was talking to another adult, never talking down to him or treating him like he was fragile. "You know what the most important thing about being a cowboy is, Tommy?" Clint asked as they sat together on the porch of the western town. "Being tough?" Tommy guessed. "Nope," Clint said. "Being kind. A real cowboy protects people who can't protect themselves. He stands up for what's right even when it's hard. And he treats everyone, especially kids and animals, with respect." Tommy thought about this seriously. "Am I a real cowboy, Mr. Eastwood?" Clint looked at this 6-year-old boy who had been fighting cancer for half his life with more courage than most adults could ever muster. "Tommy," he said, "you're the toughest cowboy I've ever met." At that moment, something magical happened. The entire crew, who had been watching this interaction from a distance, spontaneously burst into applause. These hardened film professionals, stunt coordinators, cameramen, grips, actors, were openly crying as they watched this legendary tough guy show such tenderness to a dying child. But Clint wasn't finished. He brought Tommy over to where the horses were kept and introduced him to the horse he rode in the film. "This is my partner," Clint said. "His name is Duke. Would you like to meet him?" With his parents' permission and extraordinary care, Clint helped Tommy sit on Duke while he held the reins. For 10 minutes, this little boy who might never see his 7th birthday got to be a cowboy, sitting tall on a beautiful horse with Clint Eastwood walking beside him. The crew captured it all on film, creating a private movie just for Tommy and his family. As the day drew to a close, Tommy looked up at Clint with those bright, brave eyes. "Mr. Eastwood," he said, "can I ask you something?" "Anything, partner." "I'm really sick," Tommy said simply, "and sometimes I get scared. How do I be brave like you?" The question hit Clint like a physical blow. Here was this incredible little boy, facing the ultimate test of courage, asking him for advice about bravery. Clint knelt down so he was at Tommy's eye level. "Tommy," he said, "you want to know the secret about being brave?" Tommy nodded. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Being brave means you do what you have to do even when you are scared. And you, Tommy Chen, have been braver every single day than any character I've ever played in any movie." Clint reached into his pocket and pulled out something that made Tommy gasp. It was the actual sheriff's badge that Clint had worn in Unforgiven. "This belongs to you now," Clint said, pinning it to Tommy's shirt. "Because you're the bravest sheriff I know." Tommy looked down at the badge, then back up at Clint, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered. "This is the best day of my whole life." As Tommy and his family prepared to leave, Clint made them a promise. "Tommy," he said, "I want you to know that you'll always be part of the Unforgiven family, and when this movie comes out, there's going to be a special credit just for you." True to his word, when Unforgiven was released in 1992, the final credits included a dedication for Tommy Chen, the bravest cowboy of them all. Tommy died 3 weeks after visiting the set, on December 6, 1991. But the impact of that day rippled far beyond one little boy's life. The crew members who witnessed Clint's kindness to Tommy said it changed how they thought about their work, their priorities, and what really mattered in life. "I've worked on hundreds of films," said cinematographer Jack Green, who shot Unforgiven, "but I've never seen anything more beautiful than watching Clint with that little boy. It reminded all of us why we make movies in the first place, to touch people's lives, to create moments of joy and wonder." The story of Clint and Tommy spread throughout Hollywood, inspiring other celebrities to make time for sick children and showing that true stardom means using your platform to bring light into dark places. Clint himself was profoundly affected by his day with Tommy. "That little boy taught me more about courage in 4 hours than I learned in 60 years of living," Clint said later. He faced every day knowing it might be his last. And he did it with a smile. If that's not heroic, I don't know what. Actually, let me tell you about what happened to Tommy's parents after he died, because Clint's kindness didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. David and Susan Chen were devastated by Tommy's death, but they found some comfort in knowing that his final weeks had been filled with joy because of what Clint had done. A month after Tommy died, they received a package from Clint with no return address. Inside was a leather-bound photo album containing every picture that had been taken during Tommy's visit to the set, along with a handwritten letter from Clint. "Dear David and Susan," the letter read, "Tommy was an extraordinary little boy who reminded me what real strength looks like. His courage in facing the impossible inspired everyone who met him. I want you to know that he will never be forgotten. Every time I watch Unforgiven, I'll think about the bravest cowboy I ever knew. Thank you for sharing him with us. Thank you for raising a hero." The letter was signed simply, "Your friend, Clint," but Clint's support for the Chen family didn't stop there. He quietly helped pay for Tommy's medical bills and funeral expenses, never seeking publicity or recognition for his generosity. He also established a scholarship fund in Tommy's name for children of families dealing with pediatric cancer. Clint never wanted anyone to know about the financial help. David Chen revealed years later. He said it wasn't about publicity, it was about honoring Tommy's memory. The scholarship fund has helped dozens of families over the past 30 years, providing both financial support and hope during their darkest times. When Unforgiven won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1993, Clint mentioned Tommy in his acceptance speech. "This film is dedicated to all the cowboys who face life with courage and grace," he said. "Especially the smallest ones, who teach us that real heroism has nothing to do with size or strength." The audience didn't understand the reference, but everyone who had been on that set in Alberta knew exactly who Clint was talking about. Today, the story of Clint Eastwood and Tommy Chen is told in hospitals across the country as an example of how kindness can transform suffering into hope. Child life specialists use it to show young patients that even their heroes understand what courage really means. Tommy's story gives kids permission to be scared and brave at the same time, explained Dr. Sarah Martinez, a pediatric oncologist. "It shows them that being tough doesn't mean pretending everything is okay." The day Clint Eastwood stopped filming for a dying 6-year-old wasn't just about making one child happy. It was about recognizing that sometimes the most important scene you'll ever direct isn't the one that makes it into the movie. It's the one that makes someone feel loved, valued, and remembered. Clint could have done the minimum, a quick handshake and a photo. Instead, he gave Tommy 4 hours of undivided attention, treating him like the most important person on the set. Because in that moment, Tommy was the most important person on the set. That's what true leadership looks like. That's what real stardom means. That's what authentic toughness actually is. Not the ability to intimidate or dominate, but the wisdom to know when to be gentle, the strength to stop everything when someone needs you, the courage to show vulnerability and kindness even when it costs you time, money, and convenience. Clint Eastwood built his career playing tough guys who solve problems with guns and fists. But his greatest performance wasn't in any movie. It was a 4-hour improvisation about love, kindness, and what it means to be a hero to someone who sees you as larger than life. Tommy Chen died believing he had met the toughest cowboy in the world. He was right, but not for the reasons he thought. Clint Eastwood was the toughest cowboy not because he could outdraw anyone in a gunfight, but because he could kneel down beside a 6-year-old boy and make him feel like the most important person in the world. That takes a different kind of courage, the kind you can't learn from a script, the kind that comes from the heart, the kind that lasts forever, even when the cameras stop rolling, even when the little cowboy has ridden off into his final sunset, the kind of toughness that makes grown film crews cry, not from sadness, but from witnessing something beautiful, something that reminds us all why kindness will always be the greatest role any of us can ever play.